Welcome back to The Rock Room and another episode of the Rock Your Divorce podcast, where we help men navigate the divorce process in a healthy way. I'm your host, Stephen Valente. If you're like me, you may be asking yourself, where is God throughout all of this process? You may be asking yourself, why did God put me through this? Why did God put my family through this? You may even be asking yourself, what did I do to deserve this? Or is what I did that bad that me and my family have to go through this? Or you may be one of those that said, I don't believe there's a God. I don't believe that a God would put me or my family through all of this. If that sounds like you, then you are in the right place, because we're going to tackle those questions along with many other questions related to faith in today's episode. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, plug in, turn it up, and let's hit the stage. As I've said before, there are 7 key areas of life that if you focus on, you can navigate the divorce process in a healthy way and really set yourself up for a thriving life afterward. And first and foremost, the first key area is spiritual. This is really putting faith first. This is building a personal relationship with God and incorporating that relationship each and every day into your life. Some of the mistakes that I've made, or mistakes that men have made that I've been working with, is that first and foremost, they believe that there is no God, that there is nothing beyond what today's world offers, and that there is nothing greater than you in your life. I encourage you to seek counsel, to seek education, to go out and really reestablish that there is something greater than this. There is some stronger force in your life besides you, and that is God. For me, my personal relationship with God and with Jesus Christ is the one thing that got me through each and every day. And there were mistakes that I made. I had always felt like I believed that there was a God. I always said I was a Christian. But at the end of the day, my thoughts and my beliefs and my actions did not line up with what I thought I was. And many men make that mistake as well. I mean, they can say, oh yeah, I'm a Christian, or I go to church. But at the end of the day, they do not have, and did not have a personal relationship with God that was incorporated into their daily life. Or they believed in God, they said they believed in God, but they also put some other things on the throne, so to speak. They looked at their profession, they looked at money, they looked at their marriage, and they put that on the throne versus putting God on the throne and putting Him first in their lives. And that does not help. That does not bring you closer to God. That does not make you the man that God has intended you to be. And ultimately, it will not help you during or after the divorce process successfully emerge a better man than you did before you went into the process. So I encourage you, examine your faith, re-examine your faith. And if you are not someone who considered themselves a Christian or a believer in God, or follows the life of Jesus Christ and incorporates that into your daily life, I encourage you to reconsider and to find those people and those places that you can go to speak about it and to learn about it, and then ultimately end up incorporating that into your daily life. For those of you that do consider yourself believers and have accepted God into your life and Jesus into your life, I would say that the mistakes that I know that I made is that I didn't fully surrender and give complete control over to God. I found myself worrying constantly and wondering, having those same questions that I asked earlier on in the episode. Where is God through all of this? Why am I going through this? If I'm a believer and I'm trying to live my life for you, why am I having to go through all of this? Right? It's a struggle, and I struggled very deeply, and I'll talk about this in a later episode, really. But I struggled biblically with even filing for divorce, right? Because it said, through sickness and in health, and rich or poor, and making the decisions of, man, when you commit your vows to your wife, you're leaving your family, and now you are one for eternity. And so I struggled deeply with those questions from my faith and those beliefs in my faith, and when I did decide to file for divorce, I struggled greatly after that, and really it was more of the struggle with my faith and the belief that everything had to remain as is in order for me to keep the commitment that I made to God. And I struggle deeply with that. But there are a lot of men who don't surrender their lives completely to God, and they put other things on those thrones, and they do that. And what I will tell you, and what I have found through working with some of those men, is that really by changing that perspective, by giving in, surrendering complete and total control, you really relinquish the worry and the faith battle, right? Because I know through my divorce process, and you're going to feel this way too, I worried constantly about what was going on in my life, and about me, and about my children, and about the process itself. And I found that the same amount of energy that I was putting into worry, which is a negative feeling, I could be putting into my faith, which is a positive feeling, right? It's the same kind of feeling. You're surrendering, and you're giving control, and believing that God has a plan and a purpose for you in your life, and He has a plan and purpose for what you're going through in this divorce process, and more importantly, after the process is over. So having that idea that God did have a plan and purpose for me and my life, and that God does have a plan and a purpose for what me and my family went through, that changed the dynamic a little bit from worry to faith, and that made a lot of difference in my life, and it makes even more difference today after the divorce process is over, because I can look back and I can see that there are wonderful things happening for me and my family and in my life that I didn't even know were possible while I was going through that process. So I encourage you to look at that and really incorporate God into your life daily, more from a faith perspective than from a worry perspective. One of the things that I also struggled with, and I was actually talking to a friend of mine that I'm helping through their divorce process, is that believing that you're alone. And by that, I mean not necessarily just alone here on earth. There are times that you go through the divorce process, and during that process, and even after, you feel alone. Sometimes you're secluded by yourself. If you don't have your children, or if you're in periods of time where your children are with your soon-to-be former spouse, or the divorce process is over and they're with your former spouse, you are physically alone. But one of the things that I learned very early on in the process, as I began to really incorporate God into my daily life, is that you are never alone. And although God may be silent, it's that step of faith to believe that you're believing in something that you can't see. You're believing in something you can't touch or feel, and you're talking when you're praying or when you're having those thoughts. It feels one way, right? But I'm here to tell you, and I will encourage you that although God appears to be silent, he is really working behind the scenes. And there were so many things that happened within my divorce process, leading up to the divorce, after I had filed, and especially the time frame that it took. There were so many things looking back that could only have been the divine intervention in my situation or in my life or in the lives of my children or my family throughout this whole process. So having that ability to kind of take a step back and trust that, although you may not see or hear God, he's there. And I'll share a story with you. There's prior to going through this divorce process and before really I made the decision to do this, people would say, "Oh, I heard God speak to me," or God spoke to me and in my life. And I was kind of skeptical. Of course, I was, I would kind of like take that comment that they would make or that story that they would tell, and I'm like, okay, well, yeah, that's good, I guess. I had never experienced that before in my life. And it's not that I dismissed it, but I didn't put as much weight or credibility behind it because it never had really happened to me. But there was one incident, and I won't share the details about it, but there was one incident that occurred that I ended up feeling. I heard God's voice speak to me, not out here like I was hearing voices, but deep within me and my soul and my heart, that gave me a direction that I had to follow. And the feeling that I had to follow was so distinct and so direct that I knew if I did not follow what I was being told, something was going to happen that was really unimaginable. So I share that with you because God will speak to you in times. If you are open to receiving that message, if you are open to receiving those words from him and those actions from him, you will hear them. I mean, it's you will put yourself out there in a situation where you are ready to receive that signal, right? You are accepting of those messages, and you will definitely do that. So I encourage you, if you are concerned and you're not hearing from God, or you don't feel like he's in your presence, or he's directing your steps, or he's even involved in this divorce process, let me tell you, I absolutely and totally believe that God is working behind the scenes in your life. He is directing your steps, right? He is opening doors. He is closing doors. He is bringing people in your life, and he's removing people from your life that you may not even necessarily know. And ultimately, it is for your good. And this process that you're going through, although it doesn't feel like this right now, I can attest to this. When you get through this process, you will absolutely and totally see if you do what you need to do, and we're going to talk about what those things are here in a minute. But if you do that, you will absolutely see the beauty that God has for you on the other side of this process, and it will all make sense to you at that time. Another mistake that I made and that I know other men make on a daily basis regarding this is that you're not worthy of forgiveness, or that you're going through this process and he's punishing you for something that you did, or he's punishing you and your family for not being a certain way. And that's not the case. Now, you do have to accept responsibility. You do have to accept accountability, whether you were as I said in a previous episode, whether you were the reason that this divorce happened, or this divorce happened to you because someone else did something, someone else made the decision, or if your marriage just got to a place where it was better for the both of you to move on independently. You are worthy of forgiveness. You are worthy of God's love. And, I encourage you not to fall into the negative trap of blaming God for things, or thinking that God is blaming you, so he's putting this divorce and this pain and this suffering and this change and everything that's going on, that he's somehow, some way trying to make you pay for something that you did, or make you pay for something that you didn't do. So that is not the case at all. And that's a mistake that I know that I made very early on, and that I know that other men are making on a daily basis in relation to their divorce. And I say all of this to say that, the where it boils down, everything boils down to, is you have to incorporate God into your daily life. And when I said faith first, or I said that your spiritual life, the key component, that key area of your life is spiritual and your faith. It's really about becoming and bringing God into your life, not only on Sundays, or not only when you need something. Some of us fall into this act of, I'm going to thank God for the things that he gives me, and then I'm going to go to him and ask him for things when I really need it, right? It's more of a transactional, I'm going to pray to him here, and I'm going to pray to him here, or I'm going to only go to church on Sundays, and when I leave, that's where I leave my faith, or Wednesdays, if you go midweek for something that goes on at your church. So I think the mistakes that we make as men is that we are not intentional about bringing God into our daily life. And ultimately, if we can't do that, we won't be able to get through the divorce process. I can guarantee you that. And after this process is done, you will not be a better man for yourself, or for your family, or for the community that you serve, or at the end, if you choose that you want another long-term relationship, or you want to find another wife, you're not going to be the best man that you can be for her, and for the relationship that you have with her, and in your marriage long-term after that. So with all of that being said, let's take just a few minutes now and talk about how do all of those questions, how do all of this faith, how does all of this that's going on that I've just described, how does that correlate to an example in the music world, in the rock star world? And I think I have a really good example for you in the form of a story. If I were to ask you who this is, or this, or even this person, would you know who they are? Of course you would. Everybody knows Elvis and Johnny Cash and even Bob Dylan. But do you know what they have in common? Do you know what they have in common with Bono or Alice Cooper or Dave Mustaine from Megadeth or even Brian Head Welch from Korn? They're all Christians. And they all speak very openly and honestly through interviews, through their music, about their belief in God and their relationship with Jesus Christ. In fact, if you have an opportunity to go and Google the testimony of Brian Head Welch from Korn, it is truly an extraordinary story. So I encourage you to go see that. But all of those artists have that one piece that I'm talking about in common. It's their faith in God. And they bring that into their lives, or brought that into their lives every day and through their music. And there's countless artists out there and even bands that are very vocal about their faith, and they're very vocal about their belief and their incorporation of their faith in their daily life. So let me tell you a little bit of a story. So imagine the last time that you went and saw a concert, or you went and saw your favorite artist perform. That artist is up on stage. There's lights and sounds, and you're feeling all the emotions that are coming with the music that they're playing. And you're really experiencing that moment in the here and the now, in the present, right? But one of the things that I want you to think about is, when you're experiencing that from the outside looking onto that performer, let's say it's a guitar player, right? The guitar player steps forward and he starts his solo, and he's playing his solo. It's really flawless execution that's going on stage that we, as the audience, are noticing from this performer. But what we're not noticing, and for those that may not necessarily be in music or have played music and performed in front of audiences before, is that there is a lot that goes behind the scenes of these concerts. It's unbelievable the amount of work that is done by just dozens and dozens of people to ensure that when that guitar player steps forward, that solo is flawless. So think about it. You've got lighting technicians, you've got sound technicians, you've got the roadies and the giggers that put the stage together. You've got guitar techs that are tuning and taking care of these instruments, and everything else is all working toward that guitar player stepping forward and doing this solo. And I share this with you because this kind of imagery of this guitar player stepping forth and playing his solo has a lot to do with you and I living our life and really having the faith that I spoke about. Because going on behind the scenes, God is that support system, right? As I said before, he's opening doors, he's closing doors, he's bringing people in and out of your life. He's providing support and guidance and a structure to your life that the outside world may not have a clue what's going on in your life. They may not have a clue all of the struggles that you're struggling with, because as you step forward as a man into the world just sees your performance, your guitar solo. But what they don't know is that your faith is really that solid foundation that's bringing you harmony in your life, right? God is providing you strength and direction. And all of those things that we see as an audience looking at this guitar player, now that we know how much is going on behind the scenes, not only well before the show, but during the show, and making sure that this whole performance comes off without a hitch, to after the show is done and everything needs to be torn down, right? So I want you to keep that visual in your mind of you as that performer that's stepping out on stage, that's playing your solo, whether you're a guitar player, whether you're a drummer, whether you're a keyboard player, or you're a singer, and you're going up on stage. You have such an intricate support system behind you in your faith and in your personal relationship with God. And faith is a personal journey. And I encourage each of you to step forward and have that personal journey with God, not only as you navigate this divorce process, but well after, as you become the man that God has intended you to be, the absolute very best man that you can be. So, how are we going to incorporate that into our daily life? Well, I'm going to give you 4 quick things that you can do each and every day that will absolutely and totally put faith first and help you build that relationship with God so you can ultimately be the man that God has intended you to be. And I'm going to do subsequent episodes of all 4 of these in greater detail, so that you will have a framework and really tangible, practical things that you can do. So look forward to those 4 episodes coming up on this topic. But here are your 4. First and foremost, you have to have daily prayer. You need to speak one-on-one with God. And I'm going to tell you how to speak to God, because it's very important how you're doing it. But ultimately, praying daily, having that daily time with God one-on-one, is the first way that you can put faith first and build that relationship. Number 2 is you need to recruit a faith mentor. And I'm going to tell you in a subsequent episode how to do that, the best way to do that, and why to do that. But you need to find, number 2, you need to find a faith mentor in your life. Number 3, I want you to join a faith-based peer group. This is a group of men that are supportive, that also believe in God and can help you strengthen your walk with God and strengthen your relationship with God, not only during this journey, this process of divorce, but well after in your life. And number 4, the 4th thing that you can do is really serve others. And this is in the community. This is using your God-given talents and gifts, whatever that is, to really make a difference in other people's lives and take the focus off of you and what you're going through today and during the process, and really shift that focus into how can you serve others during your most difficult time of need. I know it's very difficult to think about you spending time and effort and energy on other people while you're going through such a difficult time. But it is imperative that for your mental and your emotional health, and because this is in your spiritual health, really giving back that time, giving back that energy, and volunteering to serve others during this process. So again, daily prayer, recruit a mentor, join a faith-based peer group, and serve others. So, if anything that resonated with you today, or if you happen to have what I said strike a chord with you, I encourage you to go to www.rockyourdivorce.com, set up a free 30-minute call with me so I can help you navigate the divorce process in a healthy way. And I'm also asking that you go and like and share this Rock Your Divorce podcast with other men out there that may need the same encouragement and guidance to help them get through their divorce process. So That's the end of today's episode. I look forward to seeing you all back here at the Rock Room for another episode of the Rock Your Divorce podcast.